morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this very special episode today on the 8th day of September 2023. Hey, it's a beautiful day out here in Brisbane. I'll tell you what, this is the best time of the year. 22 degrees and sunny, and it's just looking gorgeous out here from where we sit in the studios of Australian Indian Radio. Well, let's get the news on for today. But first of all, we must mention about Krishna Janmashtami at ISKCON last night. And I don't think Brisbane has ever seen a Janmashtami of that magnitude. So last night there were, literally thousands of people at the Croatian Club in 164 Dunn Road in Rockley. Everyone's familiar with the venue, but it was overwhelming to see so many people come in. And I'll tell you what, ISKCON Brisbane did a great job of managing the event. And especially managing the VIPs who come in, but not only the VIPs, everyone, all the attendees who came in, and they did come in large numbers. And, feeding everyone, the parking and all the things. So I think the volunteers, they just did an amazing job. So congratulations. We'll bring you some clips and glimpses maybe by tomorrow if you're there. They're still in the camera waiting to be downloaded. Once they're downloaded, we will do that. Well, for the first news today, let's go to South Australia, where the South Australian Police believe Robert Atkins remains have been found in Minavra well. Here's that report. Just a thumbs up that some of the scenes might be disturbing to some of the viewers, so viewer advice is
as police recover what they think is the body of Robert Atkins.
It's clear from talking to the family the recovery of the remains and giving them a dignified burial is massively important to them.
Robert Atkins was last seen in Port Pirie in November 2020. SA Police set up Task Force Southern 12 months later to investigate the deaths of Mr. Atkins and two other men, Trevor King and Jeff Mundy. All three were associated with the methamphetamine trade in southern Adelaide. Major crime detectives issued several pleas for information and charged one man with Mr. Atkins' death. Investigations in SA's Mid-North, in an effort to locate Mr. Atkins' body, led police to an abandoned Peak Road property at Minvalara, about 280 kilometres north of Adelaide. Police say yesterday was the 12th time in the last year and a half that they visited the area as part of their search, but it was only yesterday that they located what's believed to be Robert Atkins' body in the water tank behind me.
Realistically, Task Force Southern detectives have put in an enormous effort trying to find him.
Task Force Southern is a very good example of that. Multiple offenders, multiple crimes, with significant resources committed to that to make sure we get the outcomes that we're looking for.
The search at the property is set to continue on Friday, with forensic experts still working to confirm the remains are those of Mr. Atkins. Detectives are also continuing their investigations into Trevor King's death, while the remains of Jeff Mundy are yet to be located. Gladys Suriga, ABC News, Minvalara.
Today, well, ladies and gentlemen, that news coming out of South Australia, and what a mammoth task, for the forensic team there. But we'll wait to see what the final report and the outcome is. Still staying with the police department, a teenager has been arrested over the alleged Melbourne abduction. Here's that news.
After a 3-day manhunt, a breakthrough.
We have made a arrest of a 14-year-old known youth gang member who we believe is the principal offender from this incident.
And more expected to be in custody soon.
We have identified all those persons we believe responsible for that attack and that their arrests are imminent.
Police declined to comment on the 14-year-old's exact involvement in Monday's incident, in which a Year 9 student was allegedly pushed into a car while walking home from school in Melbourne's southeast and ejected from the grey Volkswagen SUV a short distance away. He sustained life-altering injuries and taken to the Royal Children's Hospital, where he remains in a serious but stable condition.
There's a clear message to those who are involved in this. You will be found and you will be dealt with. It's shameful. This is not who we are. It's a terrible, terrible incident.
While it's school students who've been the victims in a recent spate of incidents in this area, Victoria Police say any suggestions they are being specifically targeted are unfounded.
I want to reassure our community especially for the mums and dads, the kids, that they are safe to walk to school.
The offenders involved in the alleged armed robbery are among nearly 600 youths believed to be members of 44 gangs across the state. But Victoria Police say those numbers are a significant drop from pre-pandemic levels.
We are well aware of this issue. We don't shy away from the issue, and we are dealing with it.
For now, police will continue extra patrols while schools in Melbourne's east and Bayside areas are urging students and parents to remain alert. Girish Saulani.
So there you are, the QPS or the police is doing what they can, and obviously they cannot disclose a lot while the investigation is underway. But overall, looking at the incident, regardless of what the police said, that it is safe for kids to walk home, it is concerning, especially for the parents, who send the kids. It would be concerning for them, for their safety. So, well, right now, let's come back to Queensland. Let's come to Queensland. Queensland University has acquired the hottest furnace of its kind in the Southern Hemisphere. Here's that report. Just to give you some context, that's almost half the strength of the sun's temperature. So, that is just massive. What use it will be put to, we will wait and see as reports come on. Well, right now, let's look at the political scene. And as we know, our Prime Minister Albanese is on that meeting. What will he be discussing? What's on the agenda? Here's the report.
According to Anthony Albanese, he seems to have raised all the concerns across the board. He mentioned 5 detained Australians. We often think of the 2, Chang Lei and Young Hung Jun. Those 2 are sitting in Beijing, locked up on vague national security charges. But Anthony Albanese was keen to mention there are another 3 detained Australians who have actually been convicted and sentenced to death in China. We publicly only know of one of them, Calm Gillespie. He was convicted of drug smuggling crimes a few years ago. So Anthony Albanese said he expressed Australia's opposition to capital punishment. He advocated for those 3 Australians facing the death penalty, plus Young Hung Jun and Chang Lei. He said most Australians expect that she should be able to return home to her children in Australia. He also said he raised the concerns about the continuing trade sanctions on Australian wine, high tariffs that China impose for apparent political reasons, but also other Australian export sectors that were affected by Beijing's actions and yet to have their trade into China restored to the levels that it was at previously before the relations turned sour.
You've covered China for many, many years. How significant is it now that he has been invited to go to Beijing?
Well, not just that he's been invited, but today Anthony Albanese confirming that he will go before the year is out. The date is yet to be set. It's significant because this is the first visit by an Australian Prime Minister to Beijing for 7 years. Mind you, COVID kind of derailed normal diplomatic interactions for about 3 of those years. But also, too, because it signals that the Chinese government feels relations with Australia are back to a near normal level. And Australia obviously feels that is somewhat the case. But as Anthony Albanese has made clear on many occasions, the relationship is not like it was, going back 10 years. He always repeats that mantra. We'll engage with China, we'll work on issues of mutual interest, but we'll disagree where we must. And he repeated that again today, saying that the way Australia approaches this relationship, Australia's national interest is always front and centre.
Yeah. He's now going to be heading off to the Philippines, where really he is going to, challenge China and their aggressiveness against the Philippines with, really trying to improve the relationship with the Philippines.
Yeah, so Australia is not taking sides on the territorial disputes in the South China Sea. What Australia is intending to do is to affirm its commitment to international law and to peaceful negotiations to resolve disputes in the South China Sea. At ASEAN this week in Jakarta, Anthony Albanese reaffirmed Australia's position that the 2015 UNCLOS Law of the Sea ruling, which basically invalidated the basis of China's 9 or 10-dash line claim, that Australia supports that ruling, that Australia believes that international law and international norms should apply. Now, the Philippines, of course, are very desperate for any international support on this issue because in recent weeks, yet again, Filipino boats have been on the receiving end of water cannon from Chinese Coast Guard ships. So it's not as though Australia is going to be taking sides on, who owns what disputed islands, but rather we expect there may be an announcement on joint naval patrols with the Philippines. Even if there isn't, there have already been officials from the Philippines saying that Australia in principle has agreed to do this, and the reason Australia is doing it is to try and affirm that international law should be the way those disputes in the South China Sea are resolved.
Yeah. And, talking of the issues with China and many other countries in that region, in the South China Sea, did ASEAN take this as an opportunity to very clearly state their case?
Well, ASEAN again mentioned the South China Sea in the chairman's statement at the end of the forum, but the statement doesn't name China. It calls on all sides to try to avoid militarization, try to avoid actions which escalate tensions in the South China Sea. It also said that some ASEAN members raised concerns about actions like island reclaiming and militarization. So it's not as though ASEAN really spoke with a particularly united voice. It wasn't like all nations raised these concerns. And this follows what we've seen for many years. There are several countries like Cambodia, Laos, for example, that receive heavy investment from China, and they don't really seem to be in lockstep with the claimant nations like the Philippines or Vietnam, which are at the front line of these territorial disputes. And it's for this reason, Bev, with ASEAN not really able to issue anything particularly strong about the South China Sea, that you see the Philippines government not just trying to do naval patrols with Australia, but in recent months also expanding military base access to the United States. Clearly, the Philippines is a nation that feels that ASEAN, or a so-called code of conduct, which is still under negotiation, is not really going to help their cause when it comes to protecting what they claim is theirs.
Yeah.
So there you are, that full report there on the ASEAN summit and our Prime Minister's point of view. Well, ladies and gentlemen, right now let's go to Sydney, where wild wind has been seen damaging properties.
Houses destroyed. Yes, this unfortunate couple here in French's Forest lost their garage when a number of trees fell down on it, and as you can see behind me, it is now just a pile of bricks and rubble. And this young couple are getting married in just about 30 days, so it is really unfortunate. And the tree lobbers have just arrived. They're going to come remove these pencil pines which have fallen down on their garage. Luckily, the car is okay. It was parked in the driveway, but it was definitely a frightening experience for them. They could hear tapping on their window about 1 or 2 a.m. and when they woke up, they realised that it was a big thud. This is some CCTV footage that they recorded at their house.
Wow, that is pretty incredible, just watching that happening there, Alison. And while that was going on, in Sydney, parts of Sydney are expecting to be engulfed in smoke today.
That's right, Mads. There's hazard reduction burns happening across Sydney, across Greater Sydney today. The Rural Fire Service says they hope that this will prevent a really strong fire season from happening this summer. So there is a 2,700 hectare burn happening at the Holsworthy Military Barracks in Sydney, and that's expected to last for 3 days. So there is a warning for people with asthma and other lung conditions that it is really important to protect their health and to try to stay outdoors as much as possible, because there is going to be a lot of smoke in the air over this weekend and over the next few days through to early next week. There is also a damaging wind warning for other parts of the state and also the country. In New South Wales, there's a damaging wind warning for alpine areas as well as areas in the southern region. And there's winds, damaging winds expected in the southeast, Victoria and South Australia as well. Yesterday, about winds of 130 kilometres an hour were recorded in alpine areas of the country.
So there you are, ladies and gentlemen, that big wind gushing through Sydney. Well, right now, Qantas, first day on the job for Qantas CEO following the departure of Alan Joyce. What would it be filling those shoes?
It's a leadership shake-up of minimal proportions faced with the same colossal challenges.
Qantas and the board need to restore trust in the organisation. It's a good opportunity for the new CEO to take action.
The former Qantas CFO, now first ever female CEO, has promised a new day for the Spirit of Australia.
Our job is to get the balance right between looking after our customers, you, our people, and the business itself.
But tipping the scales are a host of outstanding issues.
There has been quite a bit of reputational damage, so the board has to respond to that and really answer to shareholders what is going to happen with Mr Joyce's bonuses.
Pressure is growing on Chair Richard Goyder to claw back some of Alan Joyce's performance bonuses, linked to a regulatory investigation alleging Qantas sold thousands of tickets for flights even after it had cancelled them.
If the federal court action does find that there has been wrongdoing or oversight that hasn't been managed appropriately, then remuneration should be clawed back.
The former CEO is expected to collect about $22 million this financial year. His replacement appears to have brought some hope that she will get the balance of priorities right.
We know that the travelling public holds the role of the pilot in a great deal of respect. We're looking forward, and the first signs are encouraging that Vanessa acknowledges the role that we play.
The Spirit of Australia's reputation as one of this country's most respected companies now flies in the wind. And for a brand built on customer service, Vanessa Hudson's first priority must be restoring that confidence. Customers say making airfares more affordable could be a good place to start. Rachel Coppazoni, ABC News.
That's insane, the amount of payout that Alan Joyce will receive in those, the millions that they talk about, while there were so many customers who have really suffered. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's about all we have into the segment. But before we go, let's take a look at some of the functions and events taking place. ladies and gentlemen, that's about all we have for you in this segment. Don't forget that tomorrow we have the monthly doctors program coming up at 10 a.m. Aapki Sehat, Your Health tomorrow. The courtesy of Indian Medical Association of Queensland. That's coming up tomorrow. Well, until then, it's goodbye from us. As usual, it's been wonderful having your company. Till tomorrow, stay safe.